Alright everyone, it's time for Vermont Issues, episode 29, Composting Vermont Style. They've come out with a report saying that they're seeing relatively little of the sort of compostable organic material sent into transfer stations. That is, in the state of Vermont, we passed legislation that by 2020 composting will be mandated. Any sort of vegetative scraps, if a person's not composting them or using them themselves, they have to be sent off to be composted. I believe it's being distributed to the Park Service primarily for city parks, for like agriculture projects and things like that. It makes sense. Attempting to compost as much of that material as you can is it's not just good for the world, it's healthy for soil structure and everything else under the sun. I'm not sure that it should be mandatory, like you're going to start fining people if they threw out a piece of potato peel or something. But it is one way to accomplish it. But and it points this out in the article. I think the reason why they're seeing relatively little is a lot of people compost it themselves. Now, what you've done is inform people that they can, and it's relatively easy. This vegetative material literally just needs to remain aerobic and moist, and it will compost on its own. Now, there is some methodology behind it. It's not just piling a bunch of vegetative matter together and leaving it there. It has to be tilled around, and you have rotary composters that are a bit more effective for that. Although they can't handle larger loads sometimes. You can also use a steel oil drum, I suppose. You could use that as a rotary composter if you put it on stilts and attached a crank and a little opening to put the stuff in. But I know that you need to have some carbon-rich material and some nitrogen-rich material. Like if you're just doing grass scraps, you'd also want little pieces, chips of wood or something in it, and then the carbon and nitrogen sort of interact and help it compost faster and more efficiently. You can rot down that material fairly quickly through that method. Like out back, I'm guilty of occasionally neglecting my compost pile. But it doesn't really seem to matter. That stuff, if you spread it around into the soil in general, I know some people, they take uncomposted waste, they literally bury it in furrows in the ground, especially in fall, and then, that stuff is completely rotted down by the next planting season, and it works basically just as well. If it gets anaerobic, that can be a problem, because then you end up with a slightly petrified, compacted material, especially leaves, that will, it's not exactly the greatest thing to be putting in your garden. It hasn't been heated by the rotting process properly, and of course it can cause disease. If you you don't want to compost a bunch of tomato scraps and then not properly compost it if you're going to use it anywhere near your tomatoes next year. You can get all sorts of fucked up problems. But as far as I know, a lot of people already compost. Like, compost is great shit, almost literally. Manure too. You can't produce enough of it if you're expanding. You need more and more, and you end up having to buy the bagged stuff as well. Honestly, I hope that these places, I hope the state of Vermont's going to be willing to take some of that really nice compost and sell it or distribute it to people who have home gardens or something like that. That would be a wonderful opportunity for people. Composting is good. Again, though, I don't know that it should be, strictly speaking, mandatory. I think the idea of coercing people into composting rather than just saying, hey, don't be a dumbass, I think it will, you'll have the same effect either way. If they're not getting this compostable material, some of it, yeah, people are throwing it out because they don't know about composting. They don't care about composting or something. They probably will continue not to care about it, unfortunately. Now, most of it, though, I think is ending up in people's gardens, honestly. There are a hell of a lot of gardens around the state of Vermont. Despite the fact that we can only grow things for 4 months out of the year, which is terrible. I mean, it's horrible. For somebody who likes being outdoors, especially who likes planting vegetables and flowers and stuff, it's really, it's not the great, it's like living, I guess, in Finland or something like that. It's not exactly truly temperate. That's about all. Peace out.